Welcome, everybody. I am so excited because Laurie is here with me. And when I've been following for a long time, and then I thought, I'm going to try and ask. She's probably not going to be there or say yes because she's got this huge following on YouTube and Instagram and probably busy. And I sent off a text asking her, do you want to come on my podcast? And literally within minutes, I had a yes. Because I feel that there's so much healing in Laurie's words right now. There's a reason why your videos are watched by thousands, tens of thousands every week. And we are a lot of followers who are just waiting for that comfort, that peace that you bring, that non-judgmental healing. So I wanted to bring that to the Autism Mama community, which is growing on planet Earth right now. And because autism has been such a wake-up call for me in the healing process of my child, I also wanted to hear your take on that, your channeling on that topic, as well as all the things we're going through on planet Earth right now. So welcome, Laurie Ladd. How did this happen for you? Was it an overnight success? What was your awakening process that brought you here?
Well, first, thank you for having me on. This is a topic, autism and children and autism, parenting autism children, is a really powerful and important subject that I get asked a lot. And I get a lot of messages from my guides on. And so that's why I said yes right away, because I think it's a message that really needs to get out to a lot of parents, just the understanding from a higher perspective of why and what and how to navigate it. And they have a lot of information around that. So I'm excited to share that today. And my journey began when I was 13. My mom was really sort of spiritual and understood a lot of things that we're now sort of waking up to. And so I always knew at a young age that I was here to literally kind of what I'm doing right now when COVID started, which was walk people through this massive ascension process. And I mean, I knew Ascension, I knew what Ascension was back then. I just didn't realize that this is what it was going to be like. Like this is how it was going to unravel. And I just didn't realize. And so I grew up from the age of 13 to about 40, living a very normal life, and not diving into my work, because my purpose work, because I knew that if I did, my life would change. And did I want my life to change? So I lived a pretty normal life until 40. And that's when I said, okay, I'm done. I got to get, and it's kind of a perfect time frame, right? Because 5 years later, COVID starts, which is really when the massive shift started happening for the collective. So when I was around 40 is when I finally said, okay, I'm going in, and I started to wake up to my work, and didn't really know what it was, but just started creating a website, quitting my job, moving to Mount Shasta for 2 years, and just really training. I went into massive training mode of what am I here to do, and let's do it. And now I'm doing it. And really it's about, for me, as soon as COVID hit, it became very apparent that this is why I'm here. Oh, this is it. This is walking people through this, because it's not going to end, right? This is literally the beginning. And so it's pretty exciting for me because I know how to do this. I just don't know how I know. And I'm excited to be able to hold people's hands and say, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. So yeah, that's the cliff notes.
That knowing, but not knowing how, you know that you are channeling information. And to me, I recognize this a lot because in 2004 was my first awakening, when I started to realize this child is trying to make me change things. And when I finally started listening, it was a long process, but his symptoms disappeared. Within 4 years, there's a lot of fours here, and I know you have something to say about what happened in 2004, because the earth started to shift in 2004. But it's taken me until about 2 years ago to be courageous enough to start talking about this, because I was instructed. I didn't know where I was instructed from, but I was instructed to do this work with my child. When the work was done, I was instructed to write a book that then became a national bestseller and changed a lot of things in my country when it came to health. And I've not been able to talk much about this voice that's been working through me, because it's so different, it's so strange and so weird. And but it seems like the world is more open to the fact that we are being helped, instructed, and used as vessels. So who are we being helped by, and who are you channeling when you give these profound messages every week and for us today?
Yeah, we are vessels. I mean, many of us are, well, we're all vessels, right? But many of us are here to be the vessel from a higher perspective, right? So I work with the Galactic Federation of Light, which is basically higher dimensional beings. We're all higher dimensional beings. So when I talk about them, you know, as an egoic third dimensional kind of human, we're like, oh my God, what does that mean? And is that even real? And is that true? And it's like, well, you're not human. Like we're not humans. We came in, we incarnated from something, from somewhere, right? We're light and energy, and we're in this human body. We're in this human journey. So these beings are us, but they're just out of physicality. And the Galactic Federation of Light is a very large collective of beautiful beings and consciousnesses that have the sole purpose of guarding the earth plane, or, you know, watching over the earth through her process and her journey, including the humans. And sort of like we have guides, you know, they're the earth's guides. And so they started communicating with me when I was in Machu Picchu in October of 2018. And I was like, oh, okay. And then they just started giving me all this information about everything. And ever since then, it's not me that's and I'm very clear when I speak, if it's me or if it's them, because it's very important to decide to let people know, no, this is Lori speaking. This is ego Lori. Like, I'm giving you my opinion, and this is them coming in, and it has nothing to do with me. And it is an absolute knowingness. It's like, how do you know this? It's like, you know your name, you know where you live, you know your parents' names. It's that kind of like absolute knowingness, which is what allows me to be able to share in the way that I share.
Yeah.
Regardless of what anyone has an opinion on, right? And I'm assuming it's the same for you. It's like when you had to actually share and speak about these things, it was like, oh my God, like cross your fingers, right? Like, but you knew it as a truth so deeply that there was no way you weren't going to share it, right? It was like, oh no, this is absolute truth. And because it resonates with so many people, it gives you that validation of like, oh, okay, yes, this is important.
Yes.
Right? To be heard.
Yeah. Beautiful. So when we dive into this, talking about the shifting world that's been going on since 2004, and these children and their role in trying to wake us up, or whatever the message will be coming from you, it might be completely different to mine. Who is speaking? Are you going to tell us as we go along who is talking? Who are the voices that we will hear? Or do we just
I'll probably, the way it kind of comes through is, this is what they're saying, this is what they're saying, they're saying this, they're saying this, they're saying that, this is what they're saying. And a lot of times if I look off to the left hand side, I'm pulling in the information. So I'll probably just say, okay, this is what they're saying, this is what's coming through.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, let's start by, there's this whole chaos going on in the world right now. For me, it's very similar to the chaos I felt when my child was in the darkest space. Some describe it as the exorcist without the turning head. Everything falling apart, you know, your security, your future, what you thought you were, friendships, going shopping, everything's just like pulled away underneath you. And it's screaming, chaos, shouting, violence. Who do I trust? What's my direction? And this feeling of wanting to give up, you know, that's how that felt. And I hear this from a lot of moms right now. It's the thing that's happening collectively is being pulled between, okay, I know I'm on the right track. I know I can create a better future and I can dream a new world into reality, and I'm creating with my thoughts, my vibration, my energy. But what the heck is going on with the politicians, with police that's arresting women and beating people up? The things that you dared to talk about, then people are just starting to talk about, which is the kids, the trafficking of kids and Trump and all these things that are just so triggering for everyone. What's going on? When did it start? Let's just start from that. When did this process begin, and why is everything actually the way it should be, even though it doesn't look like it is?
Well, when did it start? Thousands of years ago it started. And so it's been a culmination of clearing this energy. So everything's energy, and everything's energy is consciousness, which is light. And so because we live in a physical reality, this consciousness is physical, right? So our bodies are physical, politicians are physical, children are physical. From a bigger perspective, it's consciousness. So what we're watching is, and there's a spectrum of consciousness, meaning that if consciousness is in a lower frequency, it's going to feel different than consciousness that is in a higher frequency. So fear feels very different than love, right? So you don't really have to understand physics or energy, you just have to feel it, right? And that consciousness feels yucky, fear, right? So then you start playing with, okay, so if I'm watching something on TV, or I'm listening to somebody speak, or I'm watching a behavior, that's consciousness actually happening physically. So then you say to yourself, how do I feel when I am allowing myself to watch or listen or even participate in that physical experience, which is consciousness? Oh, I feel restricted. I feel tight. I feel happy. I feel joyful. I feel like I want to leave. I feel like I want to shut the TV off, right? That's the first piece to really beginning to understand what's going on, is starting to get in touch with how am I as an energetic being experiencing what is happening externally, which is energy, right? Because as soon as you start to do that, then you recognize, okay, there is a massive clearing or purging, like we've done internally as well, of denser consciousnesses or consciousnesses that are in a lower frequency that look physical. Police brutality, political corruption, child trafficking, racism, inequality. I mean, you name it, it's starting to come up. And what's starting to come up is that which has been buried, that which we have not been able to hold as a human collective. It's been happening for thousands of years, but we were not ready to see it, feel it, in order to shift it. We still aren't. We still have a cognitive dissonance of absolutely no way would humans do this. It's like, absolutely, yes, they did and are and will continue to until it's done. So that we have to be gentle with ourselves as we start to remember what's happening, because we're going to feel it and it's not going to feel good. Why? Because that is the consciousness that we are clearing. Well, what does clearing mean? Clearing means that you are holding yourself in a vibration that is higher, whether you agree with this or understand this, this is what's happening. You are holding yourself in a higher frequency or vibration in your body. And when you are watching something that's in a lower vibration occur, the simple notion of seeing it, like, oh, I'm reading something, my eyes are on it, feeling it, I'm feeling horrific experiences, this sucks, and allowing it, understanding it, that actually, what I like to call alchemizes or clears it. Because it's energy, we don't realize that that's what's happening. So what we see happening is it's getting worse, and I'm feeling shitty and horrible, and it's going to hell in a handbasket and nothing's working. And actually what's happening is there is a massive shift on the energetic earth, in the human body, and in the human collective. There is an actual shift in consciousness that's occurring right now that we can't see, which is the biggest problem with what's happening, because we don't trust that it's actually shifting. And because it gets louder, you have to imagine a kid in a grocery store that doesn't want to leave because it wants its candy, right? I want my candy, I want my candy, I want my candy. You're like, you can't have candy, you're not having candy, you're not having candy. And the kid gets loud and throws himself on the floor and has this temper tantrum, thinking that if it gets louder, then it's going to be able to control the environment, and the parent's going to say, okay, fine, here's your candy, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with this consciousness. It's being told no more, no more. We see you, no more. We see you. And what's it doing? It's getting louder and louder and louder until it is so loud that we have no choice but to see it in order to alchemize it and shift into these higher states of consciousness, which is what we're doing. So it looks like it's worse, and it's going to get sort of worse. It's just getting louder. And so our role is to remember that as the vessel of light that we are, when you see it and when you feel it, regardless of what split decision you have about it, whether you're on this side of the fence or that side of the fence, it doesn't matter what side you're on. What matters is that you are alchemizing it just by being in the body and watching it unravel, giving yourself compassion as you're doing it. And that humans don't realize is what they're doing. We're warriors right now. The human body is a massive vessel of transformation for the human collective. But again, because we don't see it and we don't remember, it's the most challenging job we will ever have.
And that is so fascinating. So if there's moms out there who feel that this chaos also pertains to my child just being destroyed by medical industry or what they see as vaccine industry or toxins or food, someone or something have destroyed my child, anger can build up, and that can lead to some form of attachment to fix the child or blame someone. So it's something that I see a lot, which I used to do. What can fix my child? What supplement? What extreme diets? We have just methods of almost force feeding green juice into kids that don't want it. How can we do 8 hours of behavioral therapy to fix the behavior? And then blaming the doctors, blaming the industries and all those things. And then at some point I realized, okay, all of this that's happening to my child has nothing to do with my child. It is something it felt like it was a big puking session of everything that I had said yes to, accepted, been part of, that no longer was aligned with who I am and with nature and with bonding and tribe and family. And so I had to be grateful for the vaccines. I had to be grateful for whatever had happened to my child to wake me up, because apparently I needed a good old spanking to wake the freak up because I was so deeply asleep. What what messages do you have for moms who are in the middle of that nightmare right now, who are looking for protocols, supplements, treatments, diets to fix it?
So the first piece that just needs to be stated is there's nothing wrong with how you are navigating this.
Thank you.
It makes perfect sense. However you're navigating it, you are navigating it with the tools that you have, with the information that you have, with the knowledge that you have. So that's the first piece they really want. This is not your fault, right? So there's a lot of moms they're showing it's like the guilt and the shame and the it's all my fault, and how do I fix this because I did this to them, and that's not the case. So you didn't do anything to your child. So, but they want you to understand that based in the reality that you are standing in, everything that you're doing is okay and it makes sense. But here's a different perspective. They always speak of energy, okay? And so it's everything that's occurring in your child's body is energy. And there is a contract always between your child and you. There's a contract. And the contract, there's an infinite amount of reasons for that contract, okay? So for instance, your contract was to wake you up so that you could serve humanity in this paradigm, the autism paradigm, right? For other mothers, the wake-up call could be for their own sort of healing and processing of whatever it is that they need to heal and process. Usually, believe it or not, it has nothing to do with the child. Yeah. Usually the child is coming in as the vessel of change, or as the trumpet, so to speak, to shed light and information and knowledge. And that can be very challenging for people to hold. But typically, they're saying almost every being that comes in to experience autism chose it. So regardless of how they received the autism, okay, they almost all of them agreed to it. Now, because there is free will, there is a small percentage of children that received the experience of autism that didn't agree to it necessarily when they dropped in as their blueprint. So a blueprint is from a bigger perspective, okay, you're a higher consciousness and you chose to drop into human body, whether you agree with that or not, you did choose it. And when you chose to drop in, you also chose what we like to call an Akashic record, which is basically what are some of the core things that I'm going to experience, core consciousnesses that I'll experience, and why. And so those beings that chose to drop in to experience autism chose it, and chose to either have it in them when they arrived or receive it at some other time during their maturing process. So they want you to understand that this is an energetic contract and an energetic experience the child is having. That's the first piece. So when you're looking at trying to heal the child or fix the child, can there be a relaxation into what if there's nothing to fix? So meaning what if, so this is very similar, they're saying, to sort of trying to fix ourselves, right? When we're uncomfortable and we don't like things, we try to fix it. It's part of the human nature. It's what humans do. But what if instead of trying to fix your child, they're saying, you started to recognize or listen to what is actually energetically occurring? What's the energetic lesson? What's the energetic exchange? What is energetically occurring? Meaning, what's being triggered in me, mm-hmm. right? What is, because every parent, underneath this sort of initial knee-jerk reaction of trying to fix the child and fix it, there is other things that are unraveling, they're saying, within you. What is that? Mm-hmm. They keep saying it's not about the child and it's not about fixing the child. That's what they keep saying. And the child is actually serving. The child's actually serving, and the child is a very, very, most beings that drop in to experience some sort of spectrum of autism, and many other what the human would call mental disorders, right?
Yes.
They are actually holding much more light than many of us are in their bodies. So, side note, one of the things that causes the experience of what looks like autism is just a paradigm. It's just a way of expressing or describing behaviors in a human. That's all it is. And so from their perspective, all autism is a being that has jumped into a human body that is holding so much more light than other beings that have dropped in that they can't handle being in the body. They don't know, they're on overload, like they're short circuiting. They can't sit still, they can't focus, they can't look at you, they can't have conversation. There's a lot of experiences that happen. And unfortunately or fortunately, the human calls it autism or Asperger's or schizophrenia or whatever it may be. Now, this isn't all beings that come in, but this is most of them. And so starting to hold that perspective, which is not easy, because when you look at the individual, it's physical. Remember, it's all physical what you see, but it's actually energy. And if you can start to see that this is a being that dropped in, that's holding a huge amount of light, and it's almost impossible to be in their bodies, what must that feel like? Start to have empathy. What does that feel like to not be able? And you'll start to notice, oh my God, everything they're doing, it makes sense that they're holding too much light to be in the body, and no wonder they're behaving in these certain ways. And they're saying that it will literally change the way you energetically interact with them, because it's not about the green juices, it's not about the behavioral therapies. Those are all things that will, like a pacifier perhaps, but it's about energetically understanding, having an energetic understanding and softening into the entire experience, which is almost impossible for a parent to do. It's almost impossible for a parent to sort of energetically relax into this and start to come at it from an energetic perspective, because the human's not going to know what that even means. So they're saying the human's not going to understand that, but it's almost like you have to step into a different boardroom. You have to step into a different office. You have to put a different suit on. And you have to start to use a different lens when you're looking at your child, which also means that everyone around you is going to have a different lens than the lens that you're going to start to use. And that's going to be very challenging. So one of the gifts that you're here to do, they're saying, is shift the lens, is shift the perspective, right? Let's start to shift the lens of how you look at an autistic child. Let's shift it. You have to start moving into higher states of consciousness in order to begin to look at actually who this beautiful being is, and it will clear just like that. If the child is ready to clear it, it can clear just like that. It's energy, right? A green juice isn't going to clear it. So the child will say, oh, the service work is done, let's go, right? But the parent has to say, the parent has to be in an understanding of what is actually occurring.
That is so cool, because and that ties in with the new time, speed of time. It took me 5 years, and the moms that I see now, when I observe them go through similar processes, within 2 weeks it shifts. So the child says no shoes, they don't want to be indoors, they don't cope with our zoo lifestyle. So when moms listen, take them outside, it shifts within 2-3 weeks, and everyone around them say, well, this can't be, it's crazy, you wouldn't even think this child had autism, right? Within weeks. So that ties up with what you're saying, that it shifts when we listen and when we adjust. So it's about us.
Because you start, yes, that's exactly what they're saying. You start connecting with them they always talk about it as energy, but yes, in a physical way, oh, take them outside. Oh, don't force them into the box of how you are taught to work with them. Because if you force them in a box, you're only going to perpetuate the anxiety and stress they have of being in the body. So anything that is restrictive, anything that is tight, anything that is conforming, anything that keeps them even more like this is going to only perpetuate the stress of being in the body. So imagine that you're stressed out in a body that you can't handle and you don't want to be in. What would you want to do? Run, be free, go breathe, leave me alone, right? And yet we're taught to sort of, let me figure out how to do this and let me put them in these programs and in these boxed rooms with all these. No, you got to think of this as energy. You got to think of it as energy. You got to think of them as trapped in a body. What would it feel like if I was trapped in a body? Because autism, all it is, okay, if it gets from a bigger perspective, all autism is the inability to be in the physical body because you're holding too much light.
Yes.
And then the behaviors come out in the way they come out. That's it. That's all it is. But there's a massive boxed in paradigm around the word autism and Asperger's. And how do we handle it? And how do we navigate it? And how do we fix it?
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much for that. I loved when you were talking in a previous video, I don't remember where it was, but you were talking about this restrictive, the rules that we love to set for us as humans. You need to be vegan to be spiritual. You need to not eat meat that's been, because an animal has been through pain, so you will take on the pain, all those paradigms. In the autism community, there are different, very extreme diets and therapy protocols that you need to go through to take your child out of the symptoms. So I would like you to talk a little bit about rigidity and perfectionism and overperforming and what we can do instead. How can we loosen up and soften and understand how important that is?
Yeah. So again, what they're saying is it's okay. Like you can have, like, if a parent is watching this and saying, I don't resonate whatsoever, that's beautiful. If a parent's watching this and saying, oh, this resonates, that's beautiful, right? So this is not the only truth. This is just one perspective and one truth. That's it, right? Yep. So that's the first piece that they really want to get across. The second piece is that it's not the human's fault that there are these restrictive ways of dealing with concerns and problems and issues and whatever the word may be. But what they want us to look at is, what is it? What is the box that you are squeezing yourself into? And does it feel good? Does it feel right? Or is it something that you're doing because everybody else is telling you to do it? Because here's the piece, and I'm just going to reiterate again. When you look at the child as a being, an energetic being, and you throw away the rules, you throw the box out the door, okay? Forget what everyone has said. This is stepping into higher states of consciousness. You start to step out of the box, okay? So you throw the box out for a moment, just practice or try, right? And you just look at your child, right? And on an energetic level, because you know your child, you can feel your child. If you throw the box away, you can connect to your child on an energetic level. It's almost like you're getting down to basics again. You're going to the basics, which is just me and my child, and what does my child need? Not what it should need, not what I've been told it needs, not what I've read that heals it. What does my child need in this now moment that I may or may not agree with, but what does the child need? Now you're going to say, well, how does it know what it needs? Energetically, your child is going to tell you what it needs.
Yes.
You're the one that's going to have the opinion on whether that's a good or bad, right or wrong behavior or thing. But if you can start to get back to the basics, ground level, energy to energy, child to adult, and allow your child to express what it needs on an energetic level, which is all the autistic child does anyways. It's all energy. It's all expression, right? you will be able to allow your child to move through its days with much more ease and grace. Now, for you, it might not be more easy and graceful because you have a boxed in way of how it needs to go. So it's actually your issue, not your child's, right? You're the one that's saying, oh, no, 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 no. He or she shouldn't be doing that. That doesn't make any sense. That's not how you heal. Or no, they need to be doing this. This is how you heal. Your child's going to tell you. Your child's teaching you. Your child's going to let you know. How do you know? Oh, am I listening to the box or am I listening to the child? And why is it wrong to listen to the child? Why is it wrong to refocus on what the child needs and is trying to express, as opposed to what professionals have studied and learned? Totally makes sense. They've studied, they've learned it. This is what works. Okay. But does it really work? That's what they're saying. Yeah, but does it really work? That's what they're just saying. That's why I paused. I was like, I don't know. Does it really work? I'm not in that environment. They're like, yeah, but does it really work? So I don't know if it really works or not. Okay. I have no idea. But they're saying, have them ask themselves, does it really work? Honestly, is it working? Mm-hmm. And if it's not working, try a different perspective. Try the perspective we're talking about, which is throw away the chains, throw away the right, wrong, throw it all away. And what if I sat with my child, and what if, instead of putting them in some sort of behavioral modification program, what if I let him just go to a park and run around like a banshee for an hour and a half? Mm-hmm. And what if that got all his energy out? And what if he came back and he just sat and was able to somehow describe, communicate, or draw something on a piece of paper that he's never done before?
Exactly.
What if? So they're trying to get the parent to start to perhaps view this in a different perspective. Not the perspective that the human has been programmed to view it as. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a different perspective and a different way of dealing and working with and healing yourself and your child. Because again, it really isn't about your child. It isn't. I mean, this is not about your child. It's not about the child. They came in to serve you. The child came in to serve you. That's the contract. And to serve humanity. That's the contract. The child didn't come in to heal itself. That's not why it chose autism or Asperger's. The child came in to serve humanity and to serve the collective and to serve the parents or in the family unit. That's why the child's there.
Exactly. So trying to make it fit into our little limited boxes is probably not such a great idea. What disturbing factors do we need to take into consideration? When I look at a caged animal in a zoo, that animal will just ruminate back and forth, looking very stressed, repetitive behavior, unnatural behavior. It's stressful to even look at. What do we do in our modern society and in our families that can destroy the beauty and the light and the nature of the child that we need to take into consideration as well? Because sometimes all they want to do is watch TV and games and eat nuggets all day, for example. So where's the balance between letting the child lead and also removing the unnatural factors that we have put into the picture?
Okay, well, the Galactic Federation of Light, they always do this, but just, have a sense of humor with them. What's wrong with watching TV and eating chicken nuggets? So that's what they're saying. So again, this is a much bigger, they are not human. And I have this argument with them all the time. I say to them, well, that's all fine and dandy, but you're not the one in the body having to navigate the child that's sitting at the TV all the time eating the nuggets. Like, you don't have to deal with that. And he says, yeah, but they always say, what is the concern here? Like, what is the concern? Because we create the concern. We create the problem around that. We create the issue around that. And that's fine. I'm right there with you. Like if I had a child and it was, well, actually, I don't know what I would do. I don't have a child, but I understand, right? I get the concern and it's not good for them and blah, blah, blah. I understand that, but what they're saying is what's the issue here? So I think what they mean when they say that is you make it as potent as you are going to make it, and you make it as big of an issue as you're going to make it. So if it's a big deal to you, then it's going to be a big deal to you. If it's something that you can say, well, let me take a pause for a moment. How big of a deal do I need to make this? Is there going to be another now moment where my child is going to be doing something else, perhaps? Is there a way for me to gently or figure out a routine or a way in which I can navigate this where this isn't bad? This is not wrong. I think in this paradigm, there is a lot of right and wrong. I don't know, I'm not in it, but it feels like there's right and wrongs, and it's like so potent that the parent feels horrible if they're not doing it right. Like there's an absolute right way of doing things, and if they're not doing it right, then they're making it worse for the child. And I really would suggest or recommend beginning to just notice that. How much am I in right and wrong? How much am I beating myself up over this? How much is this my fault? Think about those things instead of the child watching TV and eating chicken nuggets. Instead, say, wait a second. Let me see the bigger picture here. Let me observe this for a moment. Let me step out and actually not be a robot, but actually observe what I'm playing in. What am I buying into? Does this feel resonant to me? Do I actually think, it's okay. It's going to be fine. There's worse things that could be happening. The child has autism, right? Like he's already, or she is already dealing with a lot. Watching TV and eating chicken nuggets on the big scale of things, I'm not sure, right? So like, where are you getting your opinions and beliefs from? Are they actually yours? Does it actually feel right? And what if you just relaxed a little bit about the things that you're really holding tight? Because from this bigger perspective, the child's safe, the child's eating, the child's loved. Are you going to force the child to do something that it doesn't want to do? Then what's going to happen? So it's really a big piece that's so challenging of stepping out of the boxed way of doing it. It's so hard.
Yeah, the left, right, dark, light, evil, good. Because I remember you said, listen to the body, and sometimes the body wants to eat a lot of food. Sometimes the body wants a pizza. Sometimes the body wants to eat crisps, chips all day. And sometimes it doesn't. So the whole judging, let's dive into that for a moment, because there's a lot of judging around food, around health, and there's this old way, and then there's the new way that you courageously bring light to, where you also step into areas that are a bit triggering for people. When you publish a video and you say, is Trump a light worker? There's a lot of who's the bad guys, who are the good guys, what's healthy, what's not healthy, what's okay, what's not politically correct. Talk to us a little bit about how that can be seductive and deceiving. How did you get the courage to make that video?
Well, let's preface this by saying that I'm here to serve. So I do whatever my guides tell me. I always have since the moment I finally committed. I committed 100% to my work. And I said to them, I was in Mount Shasta and I was on the top of this mountain. And I said, I will do everything and anything you ask me to do from this point forward, no matter what it is. And I have done that in everything they've asked me to do. And I never know what it is that's coming until it's in front of me. So I was not a Trump supporter. In fact, I couldn't stand him. And I'm not saying that I am a Trump supporter. All I'm saying is that I despised the man. I couldn't stand listening to him speak. Okay. So that was where I was at 6 months ago. And then all of a sudden my guides started to talk to me and share information. And I'm like, excuse me, what? And the way my guides speak to me is they show me images and then I feel them. It's like when you fall in love with somebody, right? You feel that love. And if someone says, well, how do you know you're in love? I can't prove it to you. I feel it, right? And so if you were to try to explain or prove to somebody that you're in love, how do you prove you're in love? You can't. You can talk about it. You can try to describe it. So that's how I receive information. I feel it. And it's my truth. And then I express it through words. I have no proof. So when they started to share with me about Trump, it was an absolute truth in my body. It was a knowingness and an absolute truth that was so powerful and so strong that there were moments where I couldn't believe what I was feeling for this man. I couldn't believe it. And I knew back in March that I was going to be sharing about this, but I was like, oh, no big deal. I'm just going to be sharing about it. Big deal, you know? And I was telling my mom, kind of dropping the things to my mom because she's not a supporter of him and didn't like him. And, you know, things started coming up and they were like, my guides were like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I was like, you know, okay, that's fine. And I was putting it off. And finally the day came and I was like, okay, here we go. Not really realizing the consequences. You know, the consequences were intense the first week, but it's gonna be fine, you know. But I checked out. I wasn't there. That was not me speaking. I don't even know what I said. I have no idea I haven't listened to the video and I don't know what I said in the video. I literally was like, I'm gonna exit so that however this comes through, it's not me at all, because it has to come from such a neutral perspective because of how charged the word Trump is, which is an interesting piece to look at. Why? Why is he so hated? There's many layers to this, right? But the biggest piece, the largest piece is hate and fear, which is consciousness. It's actually not about the person. It's not about political systems. It's not about Democrat, Republican, or any other political, choice that you're making. It's about fear and it's about hate. And it's about those two consciousnesses that are being triggered and coming up for people, and being able to allow that to come up and to be able to hold people as it comes up. Because I got more comments about hate and fear and anger and rage towards me, and I just held it in love. I was like, I see your anger and your hate and your rage, and that's yours to clear, right? And that's the collective that's clearing. So we have to sort of look at what is this behind what is this that's actually happening, and what is this individual doing that's allowing so much hate? And then you have to go into, well, who's the puppet masters? Where's the manipulation coming from? Where is this? And it's not political. It's a large overarching system that's collapsing, many systems that are collapsing. And we sort of have to look at, what is this? Like, forget about right and wrong, right? Let's just look at what's happening. Let's look at the response that people are having. Let's look at the duality that is being shown, the anger, let's look at this. That's all. Let's just look. And can we shift it? And the bigger piece to all of this, which is what they were telling me, because I said to them, I said, why am I doing this video right before I turned the camera on? Why am I doing this? And they said to basically clear the divide that humans are perpetuating. Even in the spiritual community, there's a massive I had so many spiritual teachers say horrible things about me that are in the spiritual community. And so it's like, okay, so this really wasn't about Trump. This was about, let us look at our behaviors and let us look at the divide, because we have to come together regardless of our differences. That's what this was about. Why can we not come together in our differences? Why? I don't understand it. I don't understand how we can't have differing opinions and still honor and love each other and walk through this together. Why are we not able to hold other people's opinions? Well, I don't understand it. I'm serious. I don't get it. Why? Why can't somebody else have a different opinion? And why can't I honor that opinion and say, well, that's totally not my opinion, but go for it. Like, have that. You go, girl, or you go, dude, like, have it. Why? And that was the biggest piece. And I honestly think that the impact of that video will have a sort of like a domino effect.
Yeah, it will.
As people start to kind of settle into what actually happened.
Yes, and I think this judgment, because I feel the same love, unexplainable love that I'm just being very discreet about for this man, the work that he's doing, and the projections that he receives. It's just incredible. I have no judgment. I really don't have any judgment, and I think that this is something that I'm just starting to understand through your work, how non-judgment is literally the GPS pointing me towards, am I in my truth or am I stepping out of my truth? I know that every time I start judging or calling people sheep or blaming or being in indignation, it doesn't feel right to me. So what's your best advice for those who feel enlightened? They can see that there are things being purged and transmuted into light, and then they see these accusations, oh, it's just all these crazy QAnon people, and how can you support a person who's like that towards women, and all these fractions. What's your best advice for us to step into a peaceful place where we can heal through it and not be...
Well, we will heal through it. We will make it through this. Gosh darn it, we will. It's so fascinating to me watching this. It's just so fascinating. But okay, so the first piece is, there's two really important pieces that they're showing me that's coming through. Observing yourself and having compassion for yourself. Mm-hmm. If you can't have compassion for yourself, you're not going to be able to have compassion for others. So when you're in anger and rage and like you want to pull your hair out and you're like, how can these people think these things? And you're doing these like knee-jerk reactions to what's unraveling. That doesn't feel good perhaps, or it feels really good, right? Like, no, this feels really good. I want to be doing this anger and rage thing, right? Because there's days where that really feels good. Like, I got to get this out. You idiot, you're in a car. Why are you wearing a mask, right? Like sometimes I'm just like, I don't get it. So sometimes that feels good. You just got to get it out. But here's the piece. Have compassion for yourself that you're in this. Oh my God, look what I just did. It's not their fault. They're in fear. And this is their response to what's happening. And my response is to not do that. So you watch yourself. So you're in it. Oh my God, I just freaked out on someone. And then you snap out of it. And then you're in it. And then you snap out. Snapping out means watching yourself. Oh my God, I just did that. I just felt that. I just said that. That's the observer perspective, which is huge, because if you can't observe yourself, you can't choose to be a different way. You can't choose to step into neutrality. You can't choose to see things from both sides, right? So being the observer is massive, and then having compassion for your human experience. There has never been a more sort of chaotic, intense, dense time in terms of collectively choosing to shift, which is what we're doing, even if we don't know that we're choosing it, than what we're in right now. And so the polarities are so charged that it's going to be challenging to not find yourself on one side or the other. And so what they say about neutrality. Neutrality is, I'm standing on a road and there's two paths to take. Okay? And right now, there's two very, not political, just distinct paths in any system, right? Political system, two paths, environmental system, two paths, dietary system, two paths, science system, two paths, with the COVID. So there's two paths in a lot of these systems. Neutrality is not that you aren't choosing a side necessarily. Neutrality is that regardless of what side you may be on, because we're human, we're going to have opinions, okay? So if you have an opinion, neutrality is standing in the middle of the road saying, I'd prefer to walk down that path. It feels much better to me. But I see, hold, respect, and understand both sides. Wow. That's neutrality. Because a lot of people say, well, neutrality means you don't care, that you're not going to pick a side. Well, maybe there's humans that don't care at all and that aren't feeling that pull. Probably if you were to ask them a little bit deeper what their beliefs are, they would probably have a pull towards something, right? This feels right to me. This feels good to me. This feels like the direction I want to go. If you were to actually probe them into their beliefs, right? Because we still hold beliefs. But the neutral perspective is, I'm going to have my opinion. I'm going to have my beliefs. I'm going to have what feels good to me. But I'm going to look at both sides and say, go for it. Go do your thing. Who am I to tell you not to? And this is a very challenging piece when it comes to really horrific things. And things that you can't understand, that why would somebody do that? Why would somebody choose this? Why, right? We're trying to unify. We're trying to move into higher states of consciousness. It's not your role to understand why. It's not your role to understand why. It's your role to hold empathy and compassion. That's your role.
Yeah. That is so important. What do you say because I remember when your video came up about Trump being a light worker, dismantling a lot of darkness. Yeah. I had people who said, well, it just even putting it into words, that's 3D, that's three-dimensional, acknowledging it, then she's creating it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. Even that in a meta perspective became another thing to judge for people. What do you say about that? Do we emphasize it? Do we create it by talking about it, the trafficking, the darkness, the deep state, all those things that's being dismantled right now?
So here's the piece. Here's how I'm going to step out of Lori for a moment so that I don't share my own opinion and ego perspective. Here's how the Galactic Federation of Light wants us to look at it. We're in a large arena. We're all in the arena, and the arena is third dimension. Okay, I don't care. Doesn't matter who you are, they said. You're in third dimension. Period. Yeah. Okay? You get to choose how you're going to respond to it. There is no right or wrong, and there are many light workers that are not designed to face it and to look at it. They showed me this. So there are many light workers that have to hold and anchor the light, and the way that they can do that is to not look at it. And so those individuals that are like, oh, well, this is just perpetuating it. It's not perpetuating it, because it actually has to be looked at, experienced, spoken about in order to clear. So it's not perpetuating it. It's actually the pink elephant in the room that needs to be loved and moved through. But what they're actually saying is, I'm not here to look at it, so I'm not going to look at it so that I can hold the light that I'm here to hold, right? So again, there's a divide that's being created, a right and wrong, right? Oh, she's wrong because she's doing it this way, because this is the way I would do it. So we have to start looking at that, right? Because this is a large arena, and no matter which way you deal with it, you are in third dimension. You're standing in it. So if your way of dealing with it is to literally choose to not look at it, that is an important piece of the ascension. We need humans to not look at it. We need humans to not play a part in it. We need humans to hold the higher frequencies. If you are like myself, being forced to look at it, talk about it, speak about it, there are days where you are literally crying or on the floor, or, you know, it's intense. So we absolutely have to have humans, light workers, starseeds, way showers, that are like, no, not going to deal with it. It has to happen. We have to have a variety. The piece here, you guys, is to not make it right or wrong. Like, stop telling me that what I did was wrong, right? Yeah. Like, and that your way is the right way because you don't believe that he's a light worker. A light worker, he's also a human. He also has faults. He also has a personality, right? Like we all do. And if you look at other presidents, you got to look at the frame in which we have been manipulated by the media.
Yeah.
And what we have actually been told and what we haven't been. And the only way you can actually do that is to really start to do your own research on other presidents, right? Because there are other presidents that have done far worse than what this president has done. And so I always get confused as to where all the anger is, except when I step into their perspective, it's perfect. He has to create this. This is exactly what he needs to be doing. But from a third dimensional perspective, it's like, wait a second, you guys, like, a piece of this is also how manipulated is the human. How controlled and manipulated is the human. We're very controlled, we're very manipulated, and we're very brainwashed, period. And that's a piece of this, is coming back to sovereignty. What is my actual truth? Not what somebody's telling me, but what's my truth? What's my sovereignty? And why? Why am I feeling this? Why am I believing this? And who told me?
Yes, mama.
Right? Not right and wrong. Just wait a second. Let me actually ask the question, why? And who told me it? And does it make sense? And is it possible? Is it possible that I've been manipulated and brainwashed and controlled my whole life? Is it possible that we have been? And is that a piece of the ascension process? Do we have to break that up? How do you ascend into higher states of consciousness if you're brainwashed, controlled, and manipulated?
Exactly. What I would like you to just kind of finish this whole train of thought and send us into a peaceful place, or just a more peaceful place, maybe. Probably too big of an ask, but you say that you don't work on raising your frequency. So when you talk about ascension, sometimes for people, I think it can feel like it's an exam we need to pass, and then we get perfect, and then we don't get affected by things. We get like superhuman, and everything goes our way. So talk a little bit about that, why you don't work on raising your frequency, but also the flow state, because there is a place that is higher dimensional that feels better than this, rolling around in the mud kind of.
Hell yes. Yeah. Oh my God, yes. I mean, come on. It feels much better, of course, when you are feeling yourself in a place where all is well, I'm aligned, I'm connected, I feel good, I feel at peace, I feel in a flow state, which is very much like things are good. I feel in alignment. I feel like I'm in that higher frequency. Who wouldn't want to be in that? Right? And what's happening is, as we start to step into those states of consciousness more and more, it becomes very challenging when we feel ourselves in the lower states. And so because we are human, we control things. We are born to be in control, right? To control our environment, to control our emotions, to control everything. And when you're in a flow state, you don't control anything. And that includes the moments when you're not feeling so high, so great, right? Because what happens when we try to control a state of consciousness that we have a judgment around, What you're actually doing is you are perpetuating it in some sort of cycle, they say. So you'll find yourself in a cycle of constantly trying to control your frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be moments where you're in a flow state, but as soon as you find yourself in some sort of altered state that's not that flow state, there's judgment and there's a desire and attachment to be out of it. And so then what you do is you try to control that and move yourself out of it. And what's actually happening is a natural process of your body anchoring into higher states of consciousness. And the only way that it does that is that it has to clear out or alchemize, shift the denser consciousnesses. And the only way, this is what people call shadow work, the only way that you clear out or alchemize that denser consciousness is by feeling it.
Mm.
So if you're trying to shift out of it, what you're going to continue to be in a very uncomfortable cycle where you're beating yourself up perhaps for years, always trying to be in a state that is designed to be flow. And so when you are in flow, you're in a river where there may be a massive boulder and you're going to hit it, part of the river. You're still in flow.
Mm.
Flow does not mean that you don't feel uncomfortable. Flow does not mean that you don't feel sad or angry or depressed. Flow means that I move with everything. That's flow state. I don't attach and say, oh my God, I just hit a boulder. I did something wrong. I need to switch positions. I need to change the way I've been doing things. An actual flow state has no judgment around whatever it is you're flowing through. And that's what we're learning. We're learning that. And so when they gave me that piece of information, because I've never been told by my guides to raise my frequency, never have they ever said to me, you need to raise your frequency. Quite the opposite. Mm-hmm. They said, keep doing it, keep feeling, you're amazing, have compassion, love yourself. This is what you're experiencing. And they always say to me, always, this is allowing you to move into higher states of consciousness. This is allowing you to shift into the next highest version of you. This is allowing you to shift into the next highest version of you. And they say that to me over and over and over again. And I tell myself that over. So when I'm laying in bed for 2 straight days, depressed, perhaps, anxious, sad, unaligned, disconnected, which happens to me, I don't make it wrong. I say, well, this is alchemization. This sucks. This doesn't feel good. I'm not shifting it. I know that it's going to move me into the next highest version of me. And that's exactly what happens.
Yes.
So we have to start to practice that. And if it doesn't resonate, then it doesn't resonate. Your body naturally is doing this shift in consciousness. It knows how to do it. It's just us kind of allowing it. And it takes a huge amount of courage. Being human, stepping into the human body, it takes so much courage. And really, the end of the day, the message they have for us is they don't care what you do. Just love the hell out of yourself. Can you love yourself through your human journey? Can you love yourself through the ups and the downs? Can you love yourself just a little bit? Because that's the hardest piece that humans have. Can you see how amazing you are? Can you hold yourself in compassion? Can you look at your human journey and say, oh my God, look at what I've gone through in order to be here? Can you do that? Forget about everything else, right? Just can you do that? That's really always the message.
And you demonstrate that so well, that courage and that love and that just compassion. And I love you for that. It's so important right now. You're an anchor for us right now. Laurie, before you tell people where they can find you, I will link to the different topics we've talked about, the videos about Trump and other videos that are relevant to this conversation. But can you, before you tell us where to find you online, tell us what do they say about the fact that we are safe? Because sometimes when we wake up, it feels pretty unsafe and shaky.
Yes. It's going to feel shaky. It's going to feel unsafe. It's going to feel like it's going to get worse. It's going to feel that way. So settle into that. right? Like this is kind of what we're experiencing now. Here's what they want us to understand. The reality that we are seeing is not the only reality. So it's almost like a mirage or an image, okay, that we are looking at, but there is a bigger image or mirage or picture beyond it or behind it that we can't see. And so it's going to look and sound like there's this huge monster in front of us, right? And that we have to be super afraid and scared and nervous. But really, there's a massive angel beyond that monster that's holding all of this. And we're actually we've never been more safe. There's never been more light and more guidance and more assistance than any other time in the history of humanity. Never. So recognize that the first image you're seeing is going to be the monster. It's going to look scary. But can you see beyond that and recognize that there is a massive angel over that monster, watching the monster, holding the monster, and that although you're in front of the large monster looking up saying, oh my God, it's going to kill me, the angel is saying, no, it's not. You're safe. I got you. You're safe. I got you. You're safe. I got you. That's what is happening on the earth plane. And that's very challenging for humans to hold because they don't see that. They don't see the angel. They see the monster. But there's an angel. There are beings that are supporting this process in a way that we would never be able to comprehend. Meaning the vaccines, the 5G, the weather, all these things that are being manipulated by the human is being subdued by these beings, meaning that it could actually be a lot worse than it actually is and that it actually ever will be. Okay, so it seems like it's very bad and it's not as bad as what we're seeing. The monster looks worse than what's actually happening. They have complete control over all of this while they allow free will to play out. So yes, you're going to feel afraid. Yes, you're going to feel like there's a monster standing there. But can you also hold in your remembrance and your knowingness and your cells and your DNA and your light that we're actually okay, that we're going to get through this, that there are going to be people that are going to suffer, perhaps people that are going to go through some sort of experience that is not going to be necessarily fun, but from the bigger perspective, it's not going to have the impact that you imagine it having. It's not going to have, we have an idea of how horrific this is going to get, and it's not going to be like that.
Oh, that is so comforting. And those who want to be held by that energy from you, you have a YouTube channel, and that's in your name, and I'll link to that as well, Laurie Ladd. You have a Facebook, and you contribute so much, almost every day sometimes. And then you have a page and a Patreon page as well.
Yes, I have a Patreon community, an online community that I don't know if I get more out of it than they do, but I show up every week and do some sort of live event, whether it's a Q&A, whether it's a guided meditation, whether it's a couple sessions for community members, a channeled message, but every week we come together live, or you receive the replay, and we connect to these energies, we connect to what's around us, we receive the bigger picture. And it's a community of like-minded humans all over the world that are going through it. And it is so powerful right now because we get to share that time together. It's like you come together for like your Sunday dinner with your family, you know? And you're just like, oh my God, everything's okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm not the only one going through this. So even though it's a large community, it feels very small. It feels very much like a family. Yeah, and that's on Patreon.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks for that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you for the work you're doing. Oh my goodness. Thank you for stepping into that work and for courageously doing what you're doing, and continuing to courageously share. I think when we show up in the way we do, because that's what we're here to do, we don't give ourselves the pat on the back that sometimes we need to give ourselves, because we're just showing up to serve. So yeah, just honoring you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I can't wait to share this with everybody.
Yeah, I know.
Have a beautiful day, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.